Samurai Shodown is a weird game to talk about because Samurai Shodown is a fighting game. And I know you might hear that and think to yourself, well, why is that weird? Because it is a fighting game and nothing else. And it has been a long time since we had one of those. It's not a fighting game with a rich story mode to it. It's not a fighting game with a huge list of customizations. It's not a fighting game with a bunch of weird trials and collectibles in there outside of just the regular trading mission trials. No, it's just a straight up fighting game. You go in there, you fight other people. That's literally all there is to this. You can play the arcade mode. You can play the survival mode, you can play the time attack mode, you can go online and you can fight other people, and that's pretty much all that there is to it. And in the modern day and age of fighting games, it's such a weird throwback. It is so odd to talk about a fighting game, and all you really have to talk about is just how good is the fighting in it. However, the fighting in Samurai Shodown is insanely good. It's been a long time, like over 10 years since I last played a Samurai Shodown, so I forgot what this style of combat was like, but when I picked this up, I instantly remembered, oh, right, this is not Street Fighter. This is not Mortal Kombat, this is not Marvel vs. Capcom, this is not any other fighting game out there. Samurai Shodown stands entirely as its own beast. Samurai Shodown is a fighting game that focuses almost entirely on footsies, on being able to find just those little tiny small openings to attack your opponent from the longest range that you can possibly attack them, and knowing how to read your opponent. And don't get me wrong, those things are important in every fighting game out there. If you don't know the importance of footsies, if you don't know how to read your opponent, you're not going to get far in any other fighting game out there. However, most other fighting games have other things that you need to know. Samurai Shodown, yeah, that's pretty much it. There's no crazy long combos that you have to memorize. There's no EX enhanced moves that you need to know when to use at the exact right precise moment. There's no crossover mechanics. And yes, you do have special moves and you do have a super meter down there, but in all honesty, those typically tend to take so long to build up, and this is a game where you don't want to give your opponent any real opening on you that, yeah, you're not even going to use them that often. In the end, what Samurai Shodown is going to come down to is knowing exactly when to hit the attack button. Just the regular, plain old attack buttons. You've got the light, you've got the medium, you've got the heavy, and then you've got a kick. That's pretty much it, and just knowing when to hit those buttons, when your opponent is open, that is the key to victory in Samurai Shodown. And again, if you don't really know a lot about fighting games, you might hear me describe this and think, well, that just sounds like every other fighting game out there. Not really. This game is honestly very refreshing in how simple it is. But in that simplicity, it has its own level of complexity. You do need to know exactly the right moments to attack. If you swing and your opponent blocks, you are left wide open. This is one of those games where you instantly know when you screwed up. And it's actually really refreshing and it's really rewarding to know that you screwed up that instantly. I mean, don't get me wrong, when you get counterattacked, you're not going to be sitting there going, oh, that feels good to know that I got counterattacked, but it does feel good to know what you did wrong. This isn't one of those fighting games where the opponent just gets you into an infinite combo and you're just left sitting there going, how do I get out of this? What did I even do to get into this combo? You don't have that time to learn. You instantly learn while playing this game. And I've mostly been talking about the importance of knowing when to attack, but on the other side of that scale, you also have to know exactly when to defend. Sure, you can just hold back block, but if you leave yourself just standing there in neutral and then you hit block at the exact moment that they attack, they're left even wider open. You have an even bigger opening to counterattack your opponent. There's also a sidestep move that just allows you to step around any attack that is thrown at you, but if you use that sidestep at the wrong moment, then guess what? Now you're left open to an attack. I've never really seen a fighting game where if you use a defensive mechanic at the wrong time, now you're left open. As I said, even if there is not a lot to the combat in this game, what is there has a lot of layers to it. But what about the flavor of this game? What about the characters? What about the personality of this game? Because I've always said that that is something that is very important to a fighting game. You can't just have really good mechanics up there and you're fighting with stick figures. You actually have to have a likable cast of characters. And yes, a story mode would have helped introduce us to these characters, especially considering that for, I'd say, about 50% of the people who play this game, this is going to be their first installment of Samurai Shodown. But yeah, these are really well-designed characters, and they each have great personalities to them. And while there isn't a typical story mode in here, you do get a little bit of backstory. You do get a little bit of personality on these characters when you play through their arcade modes. And yeah, I gotta admit, even though I am not the biggest Samurai Shodown fan, playing through this game, I instantly found several characters who I loved. My 3 favorite characters at the moment have to be Galford, and not just because he fights with a dog, but because he's constantly going on about justice and being a hero like he's a character out of a Saturday morning cartoon. Darlie Dagger, who is a new character, and she is just loaded with personality. I love that whenever she wins, she brings out a giant barrel of alcohol and just starts drinking straight from it. And whenever she does her big super move, she actually forms a giant skull and crossbones. I freaking love the flavor that goes into that move. And then Wu is such a great character in here because you have all these hardened badass swordsmen in this game, and she's walking around with a shield, and it's a shield that's got a dragon inside of it, and you can tell it's the dragon that really wants to fight. She doesn't want anything to do with this. Whenever she goes into combat and she just constantly looks like, I don't know how I winded up in this, it just makes you like her so much. Yeah, these characters are fantastic. This game, it was able to bring back several favorites from the old games, but also provide us with 3 brand new characters who easily justify the existence of this new installment. And also, speaking of flavor, as I said, this is going to be a game where you don't really use your big super ultra moves all that much because they leave you way too open. But if you are able to pull one of them off, this game has some of the best looking supers that I've ever seen in a fighting game. They go full cinematic and they are loaded with personality. So if you're one of those people out there who likes fighting games for the big flashy super moves, again, you're not really going to pull them off all that much, but when you do pull one off, it's going to make you fall in love with Samurai Shodown. But what else is there to this game? Not really much. I'm kind of already done with the review. As I said, the combat is great. It was really refreshing. I really like these characters. Also, I took this game online. The online connection is really darn good. I wasn't really expecting much out of this game, considering that SNK doesn't really do that much these days. However, whenever they do have an online mode, it tends to work. But here's the thing. As I said, that's really all that there is to the game. And this is a $60 game. And as much as I enjoyed this game, as fun as it was to play this, I cannot really justify this being a $60 game. I'm not saying that in a modern day fighting game, you need to load up with a story mode, you need to load up with customization, you need to load up with several different modes that no one could possibly ever even think of. But what I am saying is that every other fighting game out there does that, so you do kind of have to compare a game to its competition. And also, things like customizations, unlockables, extra modes, they help to convince you to keep playing through a game. And every time that I pick this game up, I love it. Every single time that I start playing this, I think to myself, this is one of the most fun fighting games that I have played in a long time. I am enjoying this so much. But then when I stop playing, it takes me several days, a full-on week, before I decide to come on back because I don't have anything else in there other than the fighting to remind me, hey, this is something that you really enjoyed. This is a game that you're having a lot of fun with. You need to come back and keep playing this thing. I really do kind of need something in here other than just the fighting to remind me to keep playing this thing, at least for $60. If this was a $40 game, yeah, I would have no problems with that. For $40, the fighting is all that I need, but in this day and age, when so many other fighting games provide you with so much out there, yeah, honestly, this game did need to provide me with more. So, my final score for this, I want to give it something higher. I really do, because when I play this, it is so incredibly fun. But as I said, it's only been out for a couple weeks, and I've already kind of stopped playing it simply because I've tested out each of the characters, I've found what I like about them, and now I've kind of moved on to other games because it doesn't really have enough else in there to convince me to keep coming back. And in this modern landscape of fighting games, when so many other games provide you with so much or so many more characters, it is hard to justify this being a full $60 purchase. So I'm going to bump the score down a little bit and make it a 7.5. However, if you are one of those people out there that all you care about is the fighting in a fighting game, if that is exactly what you want, if you are happy picking up a fighting game and then taking it online and just fighting other people around the world, this game is great. This game might be one of your favorites of the year because, as I said, the combat is wonderful in here and it's unlike any other fighting game out there, and that is so refreshing. So yes, I'm giving it a 7.5 simply because of how much it cost, but I do want to come in here and remind everyone, I really did like this game. But that was it. That was another Thorgi's quick review. Let us know what you thought about Samurai Shodown in the comments down below, or what other new releases do you want to see us do a quick review on. Let us know all that down below, or on Twitter at Thorgi's Arcade, or Twitch at Professor Thorgi. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Come back next time.